and welcome back to another episode of Big Solo Boy. My name is PJ. We are up to episode 19 and I've been putting this off and off because there has been a lot going on in my life this week, but more than anything, I really need to just sit down and record something because I've kept the streak alive for so long. I've done 18 weeks in a row with the podcast, which I'm so proud of. And I realize now that the most important thing is just consistency. Consistency above all else. That's what I need in my life. That's what I need for the channel. And that's what the podcast has been for me. And I really appreciate it if you have been along for this journey. I understand that not every episode is tailor-made for every person. But I've learned a lot. I've really enjoyed it. I've been so grateful to have Kurt here with me as well. So here I am, sitting down to get something out to make sure that I don't miss. I suppose the main thing on my mind at the moment is the upcoming birth of my first child. So a couple of weeks ago, I recorded a couple of sessions with Kurt. We did 2 in a row, and I fully expected by the next time I sat down to record that I would be a dad. And we're currently overdue. The baby it's very comfortable where it is, put it that way. And yeah, it's been a weird, stressful, interesting time in my life. And yeah, I don't really know what's going to come out in this session, but I have a couple of things that I jotted down that I thought could be interesting to talk about. It's probably going to be a little bit of a shorter one. So let's just jump right in. The purpose of this episode, I want to be about life-changing moments. Tomorrow, I think this is going to come out tomorrow. It's more than likely I'll be at the hospital tomorrow. And I was speaking to Jem, my partner, this afternoon, and we were saying how this is going to be a real chapter. This is going to be a real marker, a placeholder in our lives. There's going to be our lives before this moment and our lives after this moment. And I've been thinking about how I want to remember it and how I want to document it and preserve it, particularly because of the way things are in hospitals at the moment with COVID. You're only allowed, the mother of the child giving birth is only allowed one support person, which is not all bad. I suppose, it could be overwhelming to have a cast of thousands around you all the time, extra pressure and whatnot, but in a way it is difficult to not have the rest of our family close by for support. In a way it's kind of special that Jem and I will be doing this together, but at the same time it's made me think a little bit about how much I want to document it. Obviously my job, my passion in my life is taking pictures and making little videos, and I think I've been pretty good along the way with the milestones in our life in the last couple of years to try and record them so in many years' time we can enjoy them, so our kids can enjoy them, our family can enjoy them, so when our family, when friends and family are no longer around, we can look back and still have these moments. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm trying to figure out where that line is tomorrow, because it's a fine line between being fully present and enjoying the moment. And of course, I want to make sure that I'm ready for anything that I'm needed for. And speaking to another close friend of mine who's also in a very similar stage, who's going to be a dad soon, I think the hardest part is just the feeling helpless. The hardest part is knowing that there's just very little that we as the partners can do in this situation, apart from be a cheerleader and an assistant and what else do you do? What else can you do? I don't know. I've never done it before. I think at the very least, I'm going to try and record. I'm going to try and take photos throughout the day on my little Fuji camera, because I imagine there will be a lot of time that I'm sitting around, or a lot of time that I've done everything that I can do, and all I can do is just be there next to Jem. And I know she'll really appreciate it later. We've talked a little bit. She wants me to photograph and film the whole experience, so we can relive it, and the family can, you know, be there with us in a way. But I really don't know. I've packed my Sony, I've packed my A7 III, I've packed a wide lens and a little microphone on top to maybe shoot a little bit of video of the whole experience. If nothing else, then just the first moments with the baby, I think will be very special. Holding the baby for the first time, you know, the baby interacting with Jem. This is a really weird one. I'm sorry if you've tuned in for photography tips and tricks and chit chat. This is a really weird one, but I think this is an important conversation, and this is something that I really want to remember going forward. I think if nothing else, I'm going to document it with the Fuji camera, and then once the pressure is off, once the hard part is over, I think I might film some bits and pieces, because there's a certain level of like connection and intimacy that you get from video, and that regular people get from video, that perhaps photos wouldn't do justice. I think if you're directly connected to the person, or maybe even if you are a photographer and you appreciate that sort of thing, you might get, you know, those same sort of feelings and enjoyment out of seeing photos of the day and of the process. But I think for everyone else, if you're less connected, sometimes it's a bit easier to tell the story with video. And I know, you know, it's not going to be award-winning content, but it's going to be something very special and important to Jem and I and the families going forward. One other thing that I've been thinking of is, there's a few things, and there's been a lot of, I've run the full gamut of emotions the last couple of weeks, but one thing that I've been thinking of is just being present and trying to enjoy life, that sounds so depressing, but trying to enjoy things in the moment, because funnily enough, I suppose every day when Facebook brings back memories, you look back at those like photos, statuses, pictures, videos, and you think back to those times, and you miss those times, and you think of how fun they were, and maybe how you took them for granted. But the truth is, like, at the time, you're not thinking about that. At the time, you're probably not enjoying it as much as you think you enjoyed it looking back. And it's just this weird thing. You know, everyone keeps telling me with the baby on the way, everyone keeps telling me, get your sleep now, enjoy it now when it's just you two, because things are going to change. Your life's going to be different. You're living for someone else. You have different responsibilities. The game is going to change, basically. And so, despite all the different things running through my head, the different stresses and emotions and things that have been happening, I realized that I've been not as present as I should be, and I've been thinking too much to the future, and I've been not working hard enough to try and enjoy the present. And one thing that's been running through my head is that no matter where you are at life, you're always in the present. So if you can't enjoy, if you can't be there in that moment, then are you ever going to enjoy your life? It's really weird. And I think as a photographer, I get this perspective a little bit differently because, well, like I mentioned, it's our job to record these moments. It's our job to it's our job to provide this piece of history to our friends and families and clients. So one thing going forward is I'm going to try and be very aware of what I'm doing, and it's not as easy as just saying I'm going to enjoy myself, because life has all sorts of challenges, and we don't all just wake up sparkling, jumping out of bed with a big smile on our faces. That's not how life works. But if I can at least stop and reflect a little bit more, I think it'll do me the world of good. One other thing that I want to talk about is maybe just some things that have sort of helped me through this time, that have sort of given me some direction in a time where I just feel very scattered and, overwhelmed at times. I've re-listened to a book called The War of Art by Steven Pressfield. It's absolutely fantastic. I think the book is like 10, 15 years old at this point. Steven Pressfield is an author and a filmmaker, a director, I think. And in his book, he basically just talks about he talks about the force of resistance. So he talks about that whatever we want to do in life, particularly his perspective is as a artist or creative person. He's talking about writing. I can look at it from my own perspective as sitting down to make videos or book shoots or whatever. But what he talks about is this force called resistance. And it's this invisible force that's all around us. He refers to it as one of the most powerful forces in the world. And basically resistance it's this battle that we fight every day. Resistance is trying to stop us from doing the things that we're meant to be doing. So, resistance comes in many forms. I think in many ways you could use the term interchangeably with the term procrastination, perhaps. Resistance is the excuses that you make to not do something, to put off your assignment, or not edit that job that's been hanging over the back of your head. For me, it's working on the videos. I like doing the fun parts. I like planning and writing them and thinking about them and writing on my whiteboard and drawing out maps for the future and to-do lists, but actually sitting down and putting in the work, that's where the resistance comes in, right? And so he talks about the battle of the creative person and how it's a battle that we fight anew every day. You don't just do a good job, make something great, and then your work is done. You can put down the pen or close your computer or pop away your camera for good. That's not really how it works. You do the thing, and the joy and the actual meaning, you should find meaning in the actual doing. It's not about the final product necessarily. And I suppose that's why I'm sitting down and just seeing what comes out right now, because this is my little way of fighting the resistance. And I took great comfort in the book. I actually listened to it on Audible. I can highly recommend it. It was only about 3 hours, but such a good use of your time. That's basically one day of commute for me. And I really liked it. And I really encourage, if you are watching or listening to this and you're a creative person and you struggle with procrastination like we all do, or you put things off, or you make excuses like we all do. And, he even mentions in the book that often the excuses are true. Often the things that we tell ourselves are, they're not even lies. They're valid points, but it doesn't matter. If you're serious about what you do. You just have to do it. And that's the difference, he says, between a professional and an amateur. A professional shows up regardless. A professional can get the job done on any day of the week. It's not about waiting for motivation or waiting for the right moment or until you feel like doing it. It's about just putting pen to paper and just getting something done. And yeah, that was just something that I had to hear. It just came at a really, really good time. I listened to it last week and it's just so, so valuable. I can't recommend it enough. Some other things that are inspiring me at the moment, I might have mentioned in the past, Faizal Westcott. He's a YouTuber in the US. He does a lot of street photography stuff, Fuji cameras. His style I've really resonated with, and I've found myself watching a lot of his videos because it's just really comforting to see that there are people online doing it that don't have the big Peter McKinnon, Jared Pollan, Logan Paul personalities. It's nice to see people doing it from a place of, quiet, introspective, introversion, I guess you'd say. If you're into street photography or you just like well shot, relaxing, good photography YouTube content, I really recommend his stuff. Another one is Sean Tucker as well. I've probably mentioned Sean before in a video, but just so thoughtful and relaxing, the videos that he makes. Photography mixed with philosophy in a way. Really interesting content, and again, so inspiring to me. First of all, his photos are fantastic, as are Faisal's, but Sean's photos are really, really good. And the way he tells stories and the way he approaches photography and the way he approaches equipment and just dealing with, life stuff, the stuff that I was talking about earlier in this video. He goes through his struggles, he shares the struggles, he breaks them down, he analyzes his own thoughts and feelings. He's a really interesting guy, and I've just been so inspired. I've been really inspired by that, and it's nice to see, these quiet, thoughtful people doing really well, making great content and being recognized for it. It's so, so cool. I'm going to call it there for this one. It's a little bit of a short one, but I just wanted to make sure to not miss. I've done 18 weeks in a row, and consistency above all else for me. I really appreciate so much if you've stuck it through this episode and you've been watching all the way through the Big Podcast Boys series. I don't know what else to say. It's just been it's been such a good experience for me. Back to the Steven Pressfield, the War of Art stuff, just the practice of it has been so good. Consistency. I know it's not always the content that I should be making. I'd love to be out there shooting and editing videos, and I have some cool stuff that I've shot that I just need to get around to getting up, but just to prove to myself that I can just show up every week and get the podcast recorded, edited, and out. Something I'm very proud of. Thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.